Chapter 8. The two figures walked slowly, hands visible, movements careful. Both men were dressed in layers of dark, worn clothing. The older one, maybe 50, greying hair tied back, raised one hand palm out in a gesture of peace. "We're not here to cause trouble," he said. His voice was calm, measured. He sounded as if he was used to talking people down from panic. "Then what are you here for?" I kept my torch trained on them. Behind me, I could sense Noah shifting his weight, ready to move. "Same as you, I'd imagine," the younger one said. He was perhaps 30, lean and wiry, and carried himself like a man who expected trouble. "Trying to stay alive." "By breaking into our space?" Claude snapped. "Your space?" The older man's eyebrows rose. "We've been using these tunnels for 3 years. This particular chamber was left empty as some kind of buffer for us. We didn't break into anything. We live here. It's you who's broken in." I studied them. There were no weapons visible, though that didn't mean they weren't armed. They stood with the ease of people who knew exactly where they were. No glancing around, no uncertainty. They belonged here in a way we didn't. Not yet. I hoped it wouldn't be too long before we also had that ease. "The Victorian cellars connect," the younger one said, apparently reading my thoughts. "This whole area, warehouses, workshops, residential streets, it's all linked below ground. Has been since the 1800s. Most people don't know about it anymore. Those who do tend to be people who need to stay hidden." "Like you," I said. "Like us," he agreed. "Like you, presumably." Eden spoke up from behind me. "How did you get in?" "We broke through that wall." He gestured back towards our tunnel. "An hour ago. The mortar was intact. No one has been through there in decades." "We didn't come through your wall," the older man said. "We came from below." He pointed downwards. "There are other levels, older, deeper. They connect to the sewer system, the original Victorian sewers, not the modern ones. And beneath that, other systems interconnect. We access from various places." Tim had moved to stand beside me. "The airflow," he said. "That's what I was tracking. It's not just coming from this level, it's coming up from below as well." The younger man nodded. "The whole system breathes. Air moves through it. That's how you know it's safe. If the air's moving, there's no pockets of bad gas. Of course, they need maintaining too, so there's no flooding, no collapse blocking the exits." "You know these tunnels well," I said. It wasn't a question. Something passed across his face. I immediately recognized it for grief. There was a lot of that about these days. It made him look much younger, even though it was quickly shuttered. "I grew up in them. My father—" He stopped, swallowed. "My father taught me." The older man put a hand on his shoulder briefly, then looked back at us. "We heard you working, breaking through. We wanted to see who'd found this place, whether you were a threat." "And?" Noah asked. "And you're clearly not enforcement," the younger man said dryly. "No one from the regime would be hiding nasal spray and seedlings underground. So either you're smugglers, resistance, or both." "We could say the same about you," I said. "You could." The older man's face was carefully neutral. "We're just two people trying to survive, same as you." I didn't believe that for a second. Two people didn't learn tunnel systems that well just to survive. They didn't speak with that kind of authority. They didn't move with that competence, not without purpose. "There was a place," Claude said slowly. "An underground hospital. I heard whispers about it. Operated for maybe a year and a half. Then the authorities found it. Blew it up." He paused. "Killed everyone inside, supposedly." The younger man's jaw tightened. The older one's expression didn't change, but something in his posture shifted. "Supposedly," the older man said quietly. The silence stretched out. "Thad," the younger man said finally. He didn't offer a hand, just nodded at me, before turning to his companion. "This is Greg. Beryl." I lowered the torch slightly, though I didn't switch it off. "These are my people. We're not looking for trouble either." "But you found it anyway," Greg said. "It wasn't a question. Or it's found you. That's why you're down here. Why you broke through tonight specifically. Something happened." I exchanged a glance with Noah. "How much to tell them?" Thad seemed to read my hesitation. "We're not asking for your secrets," he said. "We're just saying, we understand. We've been where you are, running, hiding, trying to decide who to trust." "And how did that work out for you?" Eden asked. The question came out more bitter than I think he'd intended. "We're alive," Greg said simply. Some of our people aren't. We learned from that. Learned what? I asked. That trust is a luxury we can't afford, Thad said. But cooperation is survival. We don't need to tell each other everything. We don't need to be friends. But we share this space now, whether we like it or not, so we work out how to share it safely, or we all end up dead. I looked at him properly then. Young face but old eyes. Voice that had talked people through pain, through fear. Someone who'd built something and watched it burn. Someone like me, well, not the young face bit, but the rest of it. What do you propose? I asked. Thad gestured to the crates we'd stacked against the wall. May we sit? I nodded. He and Greg grabbed a seat each and sat, careful to keep their movements slow and unthreatening. We remained standing, not quite yet ready to relax. The authorities don't know about these particular tunnels, Thad said. Not these specific ones. They know the system exists. The Victorian sewers are on old city plans. But most of the connecting passages, the cellars, the spaces between buildings, those aren't documented anywhere. My father made sure of that. How? Tim asked. He'd moved closer, his engineering mind clearly engaged despite the tension. Bribed the right clerks, destroyed the right records. This was early in the regime when things were more chaotic, before they got efficient. The hospital, I said. The one that got blown up. That was you? Greg nodded. We ran it for 18 months, treated people who couldn't risk going to regime facilities. People who'd be reported, arrested, disappeared. We thought we were careful, thought we'd vetted everyone. But someone talked, Noah said. Someone talked, Greg confirmed. We never found out who. One day we were treating patients. The next, Grims were flooding the tunnels with gas. We lost. He stopped, his throat working. We lost a lot of people. How did you get out? Eden asked. My father's training, Thad said. He always insisted on multiple exits, secret ones, routes even the other staff didn't know about. When the gas started coming, Greg and I got as many people out as we could through the emergency passages. But there wasn't time. There wasn't enough time. He broke off, staring at nothing. I understood that look, the weight of the ones you couldn't save. Since then, Greg said, picking up where Thad left off, we've been moving, mapping, learning every passage, every connection, every route through this underground network. If we're going to rebuild, we need to know it better than anyone, better than the authorities, better than whoever betrayed us last time. Rebuild? Claude asked. You're planning another hospital? Eventually, Thad said, when we're ready. His gaze moved across our group, assessing. People still need treatment. That hasn't changed. The regime's healthcare system still disappears anyone deemed genetically undesirable, politically suspect, or economically unproductive. So yes, eventually, we'll rebuild. Just not yet, Greg added. Not until we're sure of our security, our supplies, and our personnel. I studied them. There was something they weren't saying, some reason they were here, in this specific cellar, at this specific time. You said you've left this chamber empty as a buffer space between the outside and the lower tunnels, I said. Why here? There must be dozens of spaces like this throughout the network. Thad and Greg exchanged a glance. Some silent communication passed between them. This area is strategic, Thad said finally. Multiple access points, good airflow, close to several residential streets where people might need help. And, he paused, we'd heard rumors about someone producing medicine, nasal spray for respiratory infections, distributing it through underground networks. Also, we heard that the angel had reappeared. My stomach tightened. You've been looking for us. And they'd been looking for Eden, but I didn't want to give away that I knew who they were talking about. I forced myself not to glance at him. Not looking for you specifically, Greg said. Looking for whoever was doing it. To see if they were genuine. If they could be trusted. If they might be allies. The pull was the nasal sprays. The bonus would be if Angel was also here. The Angel? Claude queried. Yes. He or she, no one is sure, would appear when people were sick and vanish when they got better. They were last seen near the old hospital. People still go there, even though it's long shut. The east side, where the quarantine fences used to be. But that was a while ago. And of course, cleansing teams are hunting them. We could protect them. Or threaten them, Noah said. Apparently, he hadn't, so far at least, been won over. Maybe that, Thad agreed. We couldn't afford to have someone operating in our territory without knowing who they were, what their agenda was, whether they'd compromise our security. Your territory? I bristled at that. This is under my house, my property. The surface is yours, Thad said. The underground is more complicated. These tunnels don't respect property lines. They belong to whoever knows how to use them, whoever needs them most. That's not how property works, Tim said. That's exactly how property works when the regime can seize anything they want, whenever they want, Greg countered. Legal ownership means nothing anymore. Only physical control matters. Only what you can hold and defend. He wasn't wrong. I hated that he wasn't wrong. So you've been watching us, I said. For months. Watching the area, Thad corrected. We've seen the Blood Sisters coming and going, seen them use your lockboxes, seen the distribution network. We didn't know who was producing the medicine until tonight, when you broke through. And we saw all your plants, although most of them are for something other than nasal spray, I would say. The Blood Sisters, Claude said. You know about them? Everyone in the Resistance knows about them, Greg said. They're effective, ruthless. They don't collaborate much with other groups, but they don't interfere either. As long as you don't threaten their operations, they'll leave you alone. They knew about our tunnel, I said. They told us tonight. They've been watching too. Thad's eyebrows rose. They told you? That's unusual. The sisters don't usually reveal their surveillance. They had to, I said. There was a situation. A woman we'd helped. She went to the authorities. The sisters dealt with it. The way I said it must have conveyed what I meant. Both men's expressions shifted. They killed her, Greg said. It wasn't a question. I don't think so, I disagreed. I think they made all the evidence such that the authorities wouldn't find anything that incriminated anyone but her. I think she's probably locked up somewhere. They said they dealt with it, that we were safe. That's their method, Thad said quietly. Clean, efficient, final. They don't take risks with loose ends. Being locked up somewhere is as good as dead. You sound like you approve, Eden said. There was accusation in his voice. I understand it, Thad said. There's a difference. We tried the other way. Tried to save everyone, trust everyone, give everyone the benefit of the doubt. His jaw tightened. It got a lot of good people killed. So now you what? Eden demanded. Kill anyone who might be a threat. Become just like the regime. Now we're more careful, Greg said firmly. We verify. We watch. We don't bring people into our confidence until we're certain. But we don't kill indiscriminately. That's not who we are. But you would kill, I said, if you had to. Both men met my eyes. Yes, Thad said finally. If I had to choose between an informant walking free and my people dying, yes, I'd kill, wouldn't you? I thought of Iris walking out of my house, of the Blood Sisters' flat assurance that she'd been dealt with, of my relief, my terrible, guilty relief, that the threat had been neutralized. I don't know, I said honestly. I hope I never have to find out. You might, Greg said. That's what we're trying to tell you. This work, helping people, defying the regime, it comes with costs. Eventually, those costs come due. The chamber felt very quiet suddenly. The only sound was the faint drip of water somewhere deeper in the tunnels. Tim broke the silence. So what happens now? We've both claimed this space. We both need it. How do we resolve that? We share it, Thad said simply. We're not here to push you out. We don't need this specific chamber. We have access to dozens of others. But we do need to know who you are, what you're doing, whether you're a security risk. And vice versa, I said. And vice versa, he agreed. How do we know you're not enforcement? Noah asked. This could all be a setup, a way to infiltrate our operation. You don't, Greg said. Just like we don't know the same about you. That's the problem with underground resistance. Everyone's suspicious of everyone because infiltration is always possible. So we what? Claude asked. Just trust each other and hope for the best. No, Thad said. We verify, carefully, over time. We share small things first, test each other, build confidence gradually, and we maintain security protocols. Separate operations, separate knowledge, separate risks. If one group gets compromised, it doesn't automatically compromise the other. It made sense. Cold, careful, paranoid sense. What do you propose for immediate terms? I asked. You keep this chamber and the one before it that you came in through, Thad said. We'll use the lower levels and access through other routes as we have been. We won't interfere with your production or distribution. You only use these chambers and your own access and exit into your original tunnel." "Agreed," I said. "How do we communicate?" "The lockboxes," Greg suggested. "They're already in use for that." "And if there's an emergency?" Tim asked. "We'll run up here. You can just go through that gap and shout." "The way sound works in here, someone will hear you," Thad said. I felt a strange relief. These men were competent, professional. If they'd wanted to compromise us, they could have done it already. It was nice to know that through that gap, these people were going about their own business. It was no longer an unknown menace in the dark. "One more thing," I said. "The Blood Sisters, do they know about you?" Thad and Greg exchanged another look. "Possibly," Thad said. "Probably. They seem to know about most underground operations. But they've never approached us, never interfered. I suspect they're content to let us operate as long as we don't threaten their interests." "Same as they are with us," I said. "Welcome to the Resistance," Greg said dryly. "Everyone watching everyone else. Everyone with secrets. Everyone afraid to trust too much or too little." "Sounds exhausting," Eden muttered. "It is," Thad said, "but it keeps you alive." He stood, and Greg followed suit. They moved towards the gap in the wall where they'd entered. "We'll leave you to settle in," Thad said. "Wait," I said. They paused. "The hospital, when you rebuild it, will you need supplies? Medicine?" Thad studied me for a long moment. "Yes." "Why?" "Because that's what we'll be doing," I said. "We make medicine, and we plan to make more now we've got more room." Something shifted in his expression. Not quite a smile, but something softer than the wariness he'd shown before. "We'll talk," he said, "when we're more comfortable with our new neighbors and you're more comfortable with your new quarters and your new neighbors." And then they were gone, disappearing into the darkness beyond the gap. I heard their footsteps for a moment, then nothing, just the drip of water and the sound of my people breathing in the lamplight. "Well," Claude said finally, "that was unexpected." "Everything today has been unexpected," I said. "I'm starting to think we should expect it." Noah was still staring at the gap where Thad and Greg had vanished. "Do we trust them?" "No," I said. "Not yet." "But we don't not trust them either. We watch, we verify, we take it slowly." Tim had already returned to his sketching, adding notes about the lower levels and alternate routes. His mind was cataloguing, planning, preparing for every contingency. I looked around at our hidden space, our carefully stacked supplies, our fragile hope of safety. It wasn't ours alone anymore. Maybe it never had been, but that didn't mean we couldn't make it work. "Come on," I said. "We've still got stuff to move and organize." "I wonder who the angel is he was talking about," Noah muttered. This time, I glanced up and caught Eden's gaze. We both looked away at the same time. If he, the angel, wanted to start nursing other people again, that was up to him and no one else. We worked in silence for the next hour. Tim finished rigging the last of his lights. Claude and Eden organized the plants so they got the light and water they needed. There were so many more than I had expected. Seedlings of all types, experimental varieties. It was beyond my scant knowledge of herbal remedies. Noah created an inventory system for the nasal sprays, with small tags noting batch numbers and dates, much more efficient than my somewhat haphazard method of production and distribution. I watched them work, my mind still turning over everything Thad and Greg had said. The underground hospital, the betrayal, the careful paranoia that had kept them alive when so many others had died. We'd been lucky so far. Lucky that the Blood Sisters had been watching, and then had intervened. Lucky that Thad and Greg seemed more interested in cooperation than confrontation. But luck ran out. It always did. And as if fate had been listening in to my thoughts, Tim's voice pulled me from them. "Beryl, there's someone here, from below." He stood by the gap in the wall, next to a shadowy figure who was hopping from foot to foot. As soon as he saw me, the newcomer gabbled. "There's an enforcement sweep scheduled for your street, tomorrow morning at 6. Standard contraband search. Be ready." And he shot off before I could ask him anything, before I could ask him to verify who had sent him for a start. My hands went cold. "How do they know?" Eden asked. "How could they possibly know the enforcement schedule?" "They've been doing this for years," I said. "They've got sources, information networks, things we don't have access to yet." 6 o'clock, Noah said. That's only 9 hours from now. We're not ready, Eden said. The house, there are still things up there. The greenhouse, the conservatory. They'll see a garden, I said firmly. An old woman's hobby. Nothing illegal about growing tomatoes and herbs. The attic, Claude said. We got the bulk of the equipment down, but it's still a giveaway. We still have time, I said. Tim and I will get back up to the house. We've got work to do before morning. If there's anything you lot need from the house, you'll have to get it now, and we'll seal the tunnel with you in here. Grab bedding and raid the fridge. Make sure you've got something to drink. My mind raced through everything that needed attention. The attic needed to look like a mad woman's art studio. The conservatory needed to look more casual, less organized. Same for the greenhouse. I'd just emerged into the shed when I paused. Through the door, I could hear voices. I held up my hand, stopping the others on the ladder below. I listened hard. There were 2 male voices, loud and overbearing, coming from near the house. One said, "But it said 6 in the morning." "Not tonight," his colleague answered. "I know what the order says, but the tip-off specified tonight, said there was unusual activity." "Tip-off? We don't have a warrant for tonight." "Since when do we need warrants for wellness checks?" "Old woman living alone, neighbors concerned about strange comings and goings. We knock on the door, she lets us in. We have a look around, all perfectly legal." Footsteps, moving towards the back of the house, towards the shed. How had they even got into my back garden? Kim. It had to be. She must have reported me for something and let them through her house into her back garden. They'd come over the wall between us. I looked down at the others in the tunnel. Tim's face was white in the torchlight. Claude had one hand on Eden's shoulder, holding him steady. "Get back in the other space. Block the hole into this tunnel. Go!" I didn't wait for argument. They were already down the ladder, so I pushed a pile of stuff over the hatch, opened the shed door, and stepped out, pulling it closed behind me. 2 Grimms stood by my back door. Young men. One had his hand on his radio. The other whirled around and looked at me with the kind of suspicion that could get a person disappeared. I arranged my face into confusion, let my shoulders slump, became the demented old woman they expected to see. "Oh," I said, making my voice quaver. "You gave me such a fright. I was just the shed, you see. The tools. I was looking for what was I looking for?" The one with the radio exchanged a glance with his partner. "Mrs.? Miss?" I corrected. "Miss Beryl. I live here. This is my house. Who are you? I'm going to call the police if you don't tell me immediately." "Enforcement," the suspicious one said. "We've had reports. Concerns about this property." "Concerns?" I blinked at them. "What concerns?" "Unusual activity. People coming and going at odd hours. Lights in the windows late at night." I laughed. It came out shrill, just unhinged enough. "Oh, that'll be me, dear. I don't sleep well. Haven't for years. The doctor says it's my age, but I think it's processed food. Never digests properly. So I'm up and down all night, pottering about, making tea, reading. Sometimes I forget to turn the lights off." The suspicious one wasn't buying it. His eyes moved past me, to the shed, to the greenhouse beyond, to the conservatory attached to the house. "That's a lot of plants," he said. "I like gardening," I said. "The plants talk to me." "What are you growing?" "Tomatoes, some herbs, flowers. Would you like to see? I can give you a tour if you—" "We'll need to come inside," Radio Grimm said. Standard procedure. Wellness check. My heart hammered against my ribs. In the house there were signs of our frantic activity. Possibly enough evidence to get us all executed. "Of course," I said, smiling. "I'll put the kettle on. Do you boys like tea?" I moved towards the back door, praying they'd follow, praying they wouldn't look too closely at the shed, praying the others would stay absolutely still and absolutely silent. Radio Grimm's radio crackled to life. "Unit 7, respond. Unit 7, we have a situation on Marsh Street. All available units respond immediately." He clicked the mic and spoke. "Unit 7 responding. What's the situation?" "Explosion, commercial building, possible casualties, need all hands." The suspicious one swore, looked at his partner, looked at me, looked back at the house. "We'll have to come back," Radio Grimm said. "Tomorrow morning," his partner agreed reluctantly. 6 o'clock, like the original order. Sure enough, they jumped over the wall into Kim's garden, ran down the alley into her lobby, and out of her front door. They weren't bothered about revealing the origin of their tip-off then. I stood frozen until I heard their vehicle start, until the sound of the engine faded down the street. Then my legs started to shake. When I got them under control, I returned to the shed, uncovered the shaft, and found the others. "They're gone," I said. "For now. They're coming back in the morning, but at least we know this now." "Thad and Greg," Noah said immediately. "They told us about the morning search to throw us off. Then they called in the tip about tonight too." I hesitated, but I knew it wasn't. "Nope, it was Kim. She even let them onto her property so they could get onto ours with no warning." "We have to do something about her," Eden said, "or she will get us all killed." He was right. We either had to do something about our repulsive neighbor, or we had to abandon this house.